also known as Return of the Jedi on YouTube. Come have a drink and hang out in our Star Wars basement cantina.
Hello, YouTube. Welcome to another edition of Star Wars Collectors and Displays. I'm Jack. We're here with Jim, and we have another collector with us today. His name is Joe. Joe, if you will, take a moment, introduce yourself. Where are you from? Talk a little bit about this collection.
Hey, I'm Joe from Washington, D.C. My wife and I made a Star Wars themed cantina bar in our basement. So it's kind of Star Wars toy themed, but we also have a wet bar down here with a mini fridge, some booze, and yeah, it's kind of our little hangout area. We actually have some retro video game consoles and some newer game consoles, and we're big board game people. So we play a lot of board games down here. So it's kind of like our little hangout area. So I like to say it was a mutual thing. I'm much more of a bigger Star Wars fan than my wife is. She actually had never seen one until she met me. And now she's pretty into it. I mean, not like on our level per se, but she enjoys it. And it's cool actually sharing this with her. And it was a little bit of a compromise having the collection room be in our whole basement, whereas we were actually able to create a hangout area too. So it works for everybody. And it's what we do, and it's great. We have a good time, and yeah, that's what we're up to.
It's a hangout area themed Star Wars, and you said this is a real working bar. Like I could come over there and I could get like a shot of bourbon or something in your bar.
Yeah, so we actually have everything stocked, and we actually have a house menu that I made where we actually have custom Star Wars cocktails. So
that was one of the questions I was going to bring up because I saw that in the videos.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have
awesome.
a big menu hanging on the wall, and then we also have like little printed out menus, which for the videos I did remove them because that has our address on it, which I'm not really sure why I actually put it on there, but the little hand menus. So when we have people over, I'll hand them the menus, and people are just like, "Oh my goodness!" Like it just everybody gets a kick out of it. But yeah, Tuesdays are Twilight night, and Saturday nights we got the Max Rebo band in the house. So
amazing.
And just an FYI to all the viewers out there, Joe is a subscriber to our YouTube series.
Yes. Yeah, I actually absolutely love your channel, and I have loved every video that you've done with the collectors. I think it's so cool to be seeing what everybody does, and a lot of us, we don't really have a chance to connect with many people that are into this, like in our day-to-day lives. So it's just so cool seeing everybody's stuff and seeing how different people display things, different collectors. But I love what you guys do, and I stumbled upon your channel, and I'm so honored to be doing this with y'all.
Oh, that's very thoughtful. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for contacting us. And the intent of the series is to showcase other Star Wars collectors and their displays and how they went about going to do it, and not just these over-the-top displays that command an entire warehouse or a world record, but regular Joes, or in this case, regular Lukes, for lack of a better description.
Right. Yeah, I think it's so cool.
Well, very cool. Let's kind of jump into it from the beginning then. According to the videos, I've seen quite a wide range of items that you collect, but you tell us, what is it that you're collecting? Action figures, vehicles, helmets, lightsabers, comics?
So I would say the vast majority is action figures, and I do have a wide range of stuff. If I had to categorize it, I would say it's predominantly action figures. The 3 3/4 scale is my favorite thing I do. But then I also have the Black Series 6-inch figures. I do Funko Pops. I do a little bit of Lego, and then some random stuff too. Like I have probably 10 lightsabers now. I got a few of the helmets and just some random stuff too. And maybe if there's some like character specific things of characters I like I have a few hot toys, not many of them, but it's mostly figures. But I kind of just blow with wherever the wind blows me, and if I see something I like, I want to get it, I will. But I try to keep it fun.
There were two in particular, what I wrote down as sideshow characters. One was Rey and the other one was Ahsoka. Were they sideshow?
They are. So they're the Hot Toys brand.
Okay,
which in America you'll buy them through Sideshow Collectibles, and The Rey was the first one I ever bought. It was the episode 9 Rise of Skywalker Rey, and I bought her, and then the season 7 Ahsoka, the Clone Wars season 7 Ahsoka was up for pre-order when I bought it. So I bought the two at the same time. I've seen them online 1,000 times as hot toys. So I got the Rey in hand first, and I was just like blown away by it.
It's extremely detailed, very,
just,
very realistic.
Yeah, the shine they put in the eyes, everything, it's unbelievable. So I'm very big on female characters. I'm a very pro femme kind of guy, and so I actually have the Padme on pre-order too. So, which is supposed to come out next year, I think. But they did Attack of the Clones Padme, and it looks phenomenal. I mean, some of the shots just look eerie. The face is just like, wow, I can't believe this is a toy. But so I'm saying right now, I'm capping it at the Rey, Ahsoka, and the Padme, but we'll see. But yeah, those things are so great.
And in regards to scale, it seems like you're kind of the whole range, everything from 3 3/4 to the 6-inch, the 12-inch. There were a few other slightly larger ones, but mostly kind of contained within that three different size range realm. Yes,
for the most part, yeah. And they all just have their different, like they all have their different things that like they present, all the different scales. Like the 3 3/4 are so great with world building. I also love them carded, like just the look of the current collection, the vintage collection, which replicates like basically what the original Kenner figures look like that black box with the colored pills and the background and the picture and the figure. That's, to me, that's the greatest action figure line of all time, is like the original Kenner figures. And just kind of, I just love how those look. And the 6-inch, I just think they look good out of the box, to be honest. And I don't know, they display really well together. And same with the 12-inch, like they're really good as like standalone pieces. So I like how they all kind of have their unique properties that make them all get together in a display.
and typically my next question would be, is there a particular series, movies, or story that you kind of centered your collection around? But as you've already pointed out, it leans quite a bit towards the female side, but also pretty wide spectrum as far as the whole range of what you're collecting too.
Yeah, so I like all of it. I mean, every era of Star Wars, everything. I feel like something that with Star Wars in general, so many of us, what made us gravitate toward it is there's something that we took for our daily life from it. And I feel like in every installment of Star Wars, whether it's a show or a movie or something, like I've found something personally that I've took from it and I gravitated towards it in its own way. And so I have like a wide range of things. I like all the eras. I just like to mash them all together. And a lot of my bigger standalone things are some more of the like female characters. So it's a little bit of all the above.
And in general, what would you say is the number, if you were to place a number on the quantity that you actually have?
I mean, of individual pieces, I probably have over 1,000.
Oh, I'm sure the number's much more than that.
Yeah, so that's just a ballpark number.
Interesting. Well, Joe, you talk about it. You took something from Star Wars. What was it about Star Wars? What there's so many different IPs out there, so many different pop culture type things out there. Why Star Wars? Why did that one make you gravitate to it?
I mean, it was just something that always clicked and registered with me. Like I guess as the legend has it, when I very first saw it, I was very, very young. And I was born in 84. So technically all of the original 3 have already come out. And I remember the story where I was supposedly 3 years old and my dad got invited to his boss's house, for dinner, which is like a big deal. So they had a wife and kids and things. And my dad had a wife and kids. So they made it like a family thing and we all went there. And I only have like real partial memories of the whole thing, but like I remember they had a bunch of Legos all over the floor in the kids' playroom. And I remember the mom saying that they never clean them because the kids just get them all back out. So they kind of just let them be there. So I remember that. And then I remember watching Star Wars, or A New Hope, if you will. And I got really excited. And during the Battle of Yavin, kids do weird things. I don't know what it was, but I was eating Twizzlers and I just started throwing up all over the floor. And I was just so excited. And I just remember us leaving, and my mom was like apologizing, and the wife of my dad's boss was like, yeah, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And I remember I felt bad on the car ride, and yeah, that's like all I know of it. But it just clicked with me overall, and I just thought it was like something so cool because I'd never really seen it before, like something like that. I mean, we were pretty much raised on Sesame Street, so we like saw a lot of stuff like that, and I want to say like Fraggle Rock was out and stuff like that. So I was always kind of into like more like fantasy and fictional things, but Star Wars just kind of blew my mind. And then as I kind of grew with it, I kind of started like develop this thing where like say Yoda would be talking or something, and I'd be like, whoa, oh, hang on, this is wise. Let's sit here and listen to this, you know, and he's gonna say something so profound. And I just learned a lot about it, and takeaways of just how to handle problems, seeing what giving in to your bad impulses can do to you, and just kind of it challenges you to think about things. And even more so, like I'm a coach now. My wife and I own a gym together, and we've competed in a little bit of everything, but we do personal training, and I coach competitive powerlifting and weightlifting. I'm actually coaching a lady at a USA Powerlifting National Championship. I'm leaving this Wednesday, so we're doing that. But with that, I also did sports my whole life, and I was kind of raised within like having a bunch of great mentors and things. And with that, Star Wars kind of, one of the things I've always loved about it is it had like always like a mentor and a protege relationship. In so many of the different episodes, they had that. And even nowadays, I'm like watching those interactions and seeing how it translates to how I deal with some of my athletes. And it just keeps evolving with me as I grow, what I take from it. And I think that's so cool. And yeah, just kind of, you can watch it 1,000 times, and every time you watch it, you can notice something else, or you take something different with it. And that's kind of where I'm at now, is like seeing how these interactions between like mentors and pupils kind of take place, how they deal with situations and problems. And I don't know, I love the fact that it just keeps evolving with me as I grow as a person. So
that master Padawan relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That's cool. Just love those scenes.
So I want to make a couple comments and go back a couple of steps. First of all, congratulations on the powerlifting thing. Best of luck there.
Thank you.
I want to go back to one of the things that I have always found interesting about this interview series is the memory lane thing. People talk about when they first saw it, who they saw it with, when they saw it, the feelings that they came back from. And so being 1984, you were born in 84, and I think you were 5 years old, so it would have been 89 when you were at your father's boss's place, and saw the first Star Wars. So the two questions around that particular night are, one, what was it that you think you got ill about? Was it the Twizzlers? Was it something you ate? Was it something that you came with? I'm just curious. Maybe it was the excitement of Star Wars.
Yeah, so I was not sick. Like the consensus was I ate too many Twizzlers, and I just got really excited, and that's just what happened.
And just to confirm, you were 3, Joe. Yeah, not quite 5.
3 as I've been told. I'm 3, and from what I remember, yeah.
Right. That's why the memories are more in and out.
Yeah.
5 you would remember.
Do you know if your parents were ever invited back?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
I do think that is, though, quite interesting what you also mentioned, the mentor and Padawan kind of relationship there. And you see that through almost every one of the movies. I think the only one that, to a minor degree, it wasn't very obvious in was Solo. But it might have been the Solo and the bartender from Cheers, Woody Harrelson, might have been that relationship there or whatever. I do have to kind of bring up a comment, though, with the current series of Ahsoka, which I'm just not getting into. It's just, I thought Obi-Wan Kenobi dragged in the very beginning. This one is just like
Episode 4, Jim. You haven't seen episode 4. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
was that the one that came on Tuesday night?
Yes.
Well, then, okay, so now that you've mentioned it, why the hell did that little girl give up that thing to the guy? It's like, haven't you learned anything yet about being a Padawan Jedi?
Well, we can talk about that off, but I'll explain that.
So I do want to ask the next question on the list, and that is your motivation for collecting all of these items. Is it investment purposes? Is it the look? Is it the enjoyment? Is it something you're getting out of there by collecting them? Or in my case, it's just a total obsession where I just can't seem to stop at it.
Yeah, oddly, I would say it's therapy. Like it is something it's something I did when I was a kid. Going back to like the early years, I remember the first thing I ever got, I had a C-3PO, one of the original C-3PO 12-inch figures with a broken foot, just because the foot was broken. I think we got it at a garage sale. So I had that, and then I had the Darth Vader figure collector case, but no 3 3/4 figures at all. But I remember those are the first two things I had. And then I always was like on the lookout for them if we went to garage sales and stuff like that. And then when the 90s happened, when they were starting to release the special editions, then the Power of the Force 2 came out. And then boom, I was like all in collecting and loved doing it then. I still love that line today. I think it's great. And of course, being a gym guy, I love all the ridiculous buffness and stuff. I'm just like, I'm down with that. That's cool. But I love that. And then moreover, it's just kind of become something as an adult of something that gets me away from life and takes me back to a simple time where we didn't have to worry about running a business. Like my wife and I do it all together. We're all in on it. And it's great. We're blessed to do what we do, but we really had to relearn how to be married, and we had to relearn boundaries. And there was a lot we had to learn of when we need to shut it off at home and not talk about things versus when it's acceptable to be talking about business and stuff. And then with what we're doing, our job is very physical and invested. Like we own and operate it, so a lot of my downtime, I'm doing admin stuff, where a lot of the time I'm actually working and actually getting paid to work is when I'm actually coaching people. So it's a very much all in kind of lifestyle. And when I really got back into collecting and more so messing with my displays, it gives me just a busy work thing to do where my mind gets off all the stress and all the craziness, and I just go back to a simpler time of like what to do with my $5 allowance, and it just calms me down. It's fun. I'm always messing with something. I'll set up something so perfectly and I'll sit there and stare at it, and then like a month later I'm like, no, this needs to be like this. And then suddenly one thing leads to another and I'm changing it. But it's really a therapeutic thing, and it allows me to shut off everything and just kind of stay busy and be doing something, but at the same time go back to just a simpler time in life that you just didn't have a worry in the world. And I love that aspect about it.
A comment and a question for you. The comment is totally gone.
Senior moment.
Oh, yes. The comment, being a business owner myself, it is hard to differentiate yourself from, in my case, aquariums, the hobbyist versus the business person. And the problem that I've always had is if you turn your hobby into a business, it's no longer a hobby, it's a business. And you come to my house and, my aquariums are not necessarily the most attractive, my personal aquariums, because you come home at the end of the day and sticking your hand into another aquarium is the last damn thing you want to do. And yet my customers' aquariums are just over the top, perfectly clean, everything's doing real well, but I'm paid to do that. Whereas at home, I seem to have lost a little bit of that hobbyist excitement. Do you find the same thing with weight training or physical therapy?
So to an extent, yes, but I've I've kind of gotten through that hump where, again, lifting is a therapeutic thing to me too. Like, so I did have to get past that thing, but I've finally found a way to kind of separate it. And but yeah, 100% that's there. And you just have to learn how to, like, just, I mean, lack of a better phrase, just separate the entities and consider one, this is exclusively this, and learn how to have your part of it be something that's unrelated to it. But yeah, it's hard. It's challenging.
And then the question part of that therapy that you found
Yeah.
is the therapy is this little bubble that you're in, and we many times referred to it as the hunt. You're sitting in front of the computer, or you're standing in someone's driveway looking at what they have, and you're going through thinking about this particular item and its price and its condition, its quality. Is this worth here? Should I get this? Should I go over there? And that in itself is therapy in a sense. The funny thing though is I'll spend all that time doing all that thinking, therapy, whatever, order it, hit that buy button, and there's that big rush of adrenaline. And then when the thing arrives, you open it up out of the package, like, okay, that's great, put it up on the shelf, and on to the next one. Do you
Right.
yourself, once you receive it, putting it on the shelf and not going back to it, or do you go back to it at some point?
I definitely go back to it. I'll take pictures of it like 1,000 times in my phone that I pretty much only look at. So, but I'll do that, and like I'll mess with how I display things, and whether it's like the 3 3/4, like the loose things, I'm always adding stuff or shifting something around. So I can say there are some things I'll just, like, a lot of the, well, I kind of rotate those too, but a lot more so the box stuff I'll put on the wall. I'll leave them, but I still look at them. Like, there'll be times where I'm just hanging out down here and just walking around looking at stuff like a museum. So I'll say I do a pretty good job of continuing to look at stuff and continuing to keep with it.
So I made a number of notes here watching the videos. There's a pretty wide range of loose figures that I saw.
Yeah.
There also has to be a very wide range of carded figures, such as what we can see in the background right now. To one side, I can see loose figures. To the other side, I see carded figures. And those typically seem to be mostly the 3 3/4, but I did see some 6-inch, which I'm assuming is the Black series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A thing that we haven't spoke of yet, and I'd like to go a little further into it than the normal, but you have a number of lightsabers as you come down the stairs into your basement. Tell us about the lightsabers.
I do, yeah. So the lightsabers, I originally, the first few that I bought were on Prime Day one year for some pretty deep discounts, because those things are pretty pricey for what they're worth. And I saw a few on Prime Day, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go and buy these. These are great prices. And from there out, I kind of just kept adding to them, and I've literally all the ones I have, minus the Ahsoka ones, I've gotten on sale. And I actually I'll have like favorites pages. I'll have pages saved to like my favorites that'll be pages where I can find things on sale, or if I can find something in non-mint condition where they knock off something if the box is messed up. And I'll kind of keep an eye on stuff, and I'll buy stuff on sale. But once I started buying a few of them, I've just, like, these things are amazing. I really enjoy them. They display great. I actually have them hung vertically on the wall where I can actually kind of rotate this, but
Yeah,
you see a little bit of them. But I basically have them hung with like little broom tools, or like lawn tool hangers. So they're mounted in the ground, and I found they like fit the shafts of the sabers, like the blades, perfectly, and it holds the weight. So I have them displayed vertically like that with the blades on them. But yeah, I really got into them, and the Black Series ones are mostly what I have, but the Ahsoka ones, I actually got the pair because she dual wields. I got those from Shop Disney, so those are the Galaxy's Edge ones. They scale pretty well together. But yeah, I have a big mix of them, but I just think they're really cool, and I have them being the first thing people see when you walk down the stairs, just because they are kind of like a higher end thing that I have. So I think it's a good, like, intro to the basement. But yeah, they're just really fun. I mean, I think it's cool how they light up and they have sound effects and stuff to them too. They're pretty.
Those are going to
intricate
be
for what
some
they're
of
worth.
my questions.
Yeah.
It's not just the handle, but it's the saber itself, which in this case, correct me if I'm wrong, is a fluorescent tube.
It is, yeah. And when you ignite them, though, you'll actually see the light run through, like how it's igniting. Like they're very cool.
And then as you move it back and forth, it varies in its sound or pitch.
It does, yeah. So it, I know some people have said it's not exactly what the specific sabers sound like. So I know some people complain about that, but I'm not picky about stuff like that. I think it sounds great when you swing them around. But yeah, it does the whoosh whoosh when you're swinging them, and it makes a whoosh when you're igniting them and de-igniting them. So I think it's cool that the effects and stuff. But I wish I did more with them. But I kind of just display them, and even go into a convention or something where everybody's bringing a saber. I feel like I would be too scared to bring one in case I would break it or something. So I'd probably still just leave.
And that was going to be one of my other questions. Does the fluorescent tube, will it separate from the handle if you goof around with it too much? Or certain if you swung it and hit something, you potentially could crack the tube, yes?
Yeah, so interestingly, some of them come out, some of them don't. The Hasbro just came up with the name Black Series for like a higher end collectible that they have, which for the most part it's the 6-inch figures. So it's weird to an extent that they call the helmets Black Series and the sabers Black Series, but because most people that collect Black Series collect the figures. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, but they do have those items. So some of those sabers, a lot of the older ones that are just called Black Series FX saber, the blade is attached to the hilt where you can't remove it. And then a lot of the newer ones, of course, they raise the price like $50 to $80 per one now, but they call them the Black Series FX Elite saber. So those you can actually remove the blade if you just want to have the hilt, which is cool. And then all the Galaxy's Edge ones from Disney or Shop Disney, they all remove too. So some of them do, but most of the older Black Series ones, the hilt is actually attached to the blade and you can't take it off.
And when you say remove, you can detach the tube from the handle?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like a fluorescent or a bulb of some sorts, it snaps in there.
Yeah. So they usually have like the top of the hilt. It'll have something that you'll unscrew and then remove that. And then you can twist and pull the blade out. And then they'll have another piece that you can screw back in that's like solid when it's just the hilt.
And Joe, I was going to follow up now that you've started collecting these lightsabers and we're talking about the hilts. Do you know the different sabers now for the different characters? Can you look at a hilt and know whose lightsaber that is?
Oh, for the most part, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Good knowledge to have.
Yeah, and some of my favorites, like Luke's green saber is just so iconic. That's one of my favorites easily. I also love Rey's yellow saber when she finally made her own. I think it's so cool that she actually used her staff to do it. I think that's so brilliant. And then as weird as it is, like I really like Dooku's, to be honest. Sure. I mean, it's weird because it's curved and it's just so unorthodox, but I think his is sweet. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now you had mentioned the Black Series as far as the action figure, Black Series as far as the lightsaber, and then you reference Black Series with regards to the helmets, which allows me to kind of segue over to helmets. You obviously have a number of helmets, but the comment that's come up in regards to helmets and the phrase Black Series is if you're buying helmets, Black Series is the version to get. Does that apply with the lightsaber as well?
I agree 100% with that, because there's other versions of helmets and other versions of sabers, but the fact that it's Black Series, it's Hasbro, they tend to be more mass produced, and with that, they're very great quality for a much more affordable price. Like there's helmets, I think Anovos is the brand, that they're like really high quality and they're $500-600 for a helmet. And the Black Series helmets retail, they're $120 or so, and you can get them on sale for $80 sometimes. So Black Series is the way to go because the quality, they look great, and for your bang for your buck for the price compared to some of the more like elite specific kind of helmets or sabers, like it's a no-brainer. I can't tell much of a difference looking at, say, like the Black Series Stormtrooper helmet versus like an Anovos one or something. I mean, it's just the difference is $400. So,
Now, I also saw in your videos you also have Funko Pop.
yeah.
Quite a large number of them too.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there was a collection there that I saw that the thought that went through my mind when I saw them was a candy, chocolate candy. They were all brown, the whole collection.
Yeah. Yeah, so it may have been the gold ones that you're talking about. But there's so they did, when The Rise of Skywalker came out, Funko did basically 9 like repainted just solid gold Funko Pops, where basically there was one for each movie. And so I have all those. And then interestingly, Hasbro did like these, like they called them like the Celebrate the Skywalker Saga figures, where it was again like spray painted gold figures. And they weren't like hyper articulated. They were the 5 POA figures, but they did a bunch of packs of those. So I actually got all those too, relative to all 9 movies. So I displayed all those together. So I think that's probably the ones we were talking about, because there's not like a solid like brown one, but of some I've displayed together that's all the same colors. It's probably the gold ones, because it is kind of a darker gold, so it looks kind of brownish, but it's probably those.
Maybe a reflection or something.
Yeah.
There was another collection you had that there was a fellow on Long Island that kind of had a few different odds, but yours seemed to be framed, but it was a series of pins, patches, and stickers.
Yeah. So that is just something random that I've put together. That, and interestingly, if I had to pick one favorite thing in my entire collection, it would be the picture in the middle of that frame. But it's basically my wife and I at Galaxy's Edge. So, but all in all, that was like actually one of the best days of my life. We were in Orlando, and I was actually competing in they call old weightlifters masters. So when you get like a certain age, you're not old, you're a masters lifter. So anyway, I competed for Team USA in the Masters Pan American Games, and I actually swept gold. And it was like such a cool thing. And it was in Orlando. So I did that, and I had a couple relatives that lived in Florida come up and surprise me at the meet, and they came and watched, and I was not expecting it. And my wife was there, and so that was awesome. They was already off to an amazing start, and then what else to do there than to go to Disney World? So we went to the Galaxy's Edge, and we got a picture of us with Chewbacca there, but it was just so fun. So we had such a great time. So that's like the picture in the middle of it. And the pins and stuff, I've just kind of slowly accumulated some over time. And interestingly, a lot of the pins I've bought were from me buying something else where I had to get over a hump to get free shipping. So say like if I was like $3 or $5 below like a threshold to get free shipping, I would buy like a pin or something to get that, because a lot of times it would equate to you would get something a little bit more for paying the same price. So I've just kind of slowly accumulated pins and stickers and stuff, and that's how that's kind of grown. So a lot of just random purchases I would do, I would add a pin or something if I had to, and I probably have maybe 30 or 40 of those on there. But yeah, and I think they're pretty cool.
They are. And then another thing that I noticed was and I think I'm going to refer to it as a Black Series or a 6-inch collection there, but there was one in particular that was autographed. And I'd made a note by who, and then I went back and listened to the video, and you used the name Ashley.
Yes, so it was Ashley Eckstein, who is the voice of Ahsoka and all the animated stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a Ahsoka figure that I had her sign.
Very cool. The other thing that I wanted to kind of address was your collection of posters. And you had made reference to your favorite 2 episodes, which was Attack of the Clones. I think that would be episode 2, and The Force Awakens, which Josh, which one, or Jack, which would that episode would that be?
That would be episode 7.
7.
Yeah. Yep. And interestingly though, Empire is my favorite. my favorite Star Wars movie. And I don't have a poster of it in here, which I even like color schemes are why I selected the posters that I have, interestingly, but and like where they were. But if I had to rank my top 3 movies, I would say Empire is 1, Attack of the Clones is 2, and Force Awakens is 3.
Wow.
So it's kind of something from every era, but
Yeah.
like they all kind of have their reasons. But yeah. So I have the big Attack of the Clones poster behind me, and then the Force Awakens. And the reason I got those, interestingly, it was like I was just hanging out down here. There are windows, so we have a basement, but we have like full size windows. They're escape windows, so in case there's like an issue or something, you can get out from the basement. So it's actually a full window, and then there's ladders that go up the window well, and you can get out. So with that, it kind of dawned on me as I was sitting down here dwelling, like those windows, like I wish I could put figures over it or something. And I was like, well, maybe a movie framed poster could actually fit, and I can just prop it up and blend it all together. And I measured it, and like, yeah, theatrical posters actually fit perfectly. So with that, you can see it's like a window there.
Mhm.
And that's the Attack of the Clones poster. And then the Force Awakens poster is there on the next window. So it was just kind of a random idea I got. But that's a big note I would love to throw out to collectors, because as people who collect know, like sunlight can be a very bad thing. So we usually have our blinds shut or our curtains shut anyway. So I would really recommend putting a big framed poster over it. It kind of brings the whole room together. But I picked I kind of picked those 2 over there because they're 2 of my favorite movies. And then some of the other posters I kind of just picked for like the color schemes and what they look like. So but
And
yeah.
the other note that I'd made to myself, and if you pan your camera once again the same direction you did towards that window, now
Mhm.
pan down,
Yeah.
down, go down, and that's all those scenes, those little dioramas and such there.
Yeah, so those are among my favorite things to do. I have 4 different shelves, and each one has like 3 tiers of like how like the height vertically, and I just have little displays from like the play sets or vehicles and things in them. So I am going to be adding a 4th one over time, because I did back the HasLab Ghost. So I am getting that, which I'm so excited about. So I have a plan for that. What's up?
The one sitting on the top of that display cabinet, the next to the ship, there seems to be 3 displays: the ship, something in the middle, and something to the right. What's the one in the middle?
So the one in the middle is actually from Solo. It's the Vanderheist playset. It was something that was like a Target exclusive. So like the train scene in Solo.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a playset of that.
Because I saw it in your videos you sent, and the only thing I could come up with was either something with the little teddy bear guys. I can't think of their names at the moment.
The Ewoks.
Or I couldn't figure where that scene came from, but now that you've mentioned it, okay, I understand that. Okay.
Yeah. And what era are those play sets down on the bottom? Are those like Power of the Force up to kind of the vintage collection stuff, or what are those exactly?
Wow. So the figures themselves are mixed. Like older figures, like I literally have some vintage Kenner figures through current vintage collection figures. So the figures themselves are all just mixed. Like if it's a character that goes in a scene or just even in a movie, I'll plop them in there. Most of the play sets and vehicles are vintage collection, like the newer 3 3/4 one. The Vanderheist one that we were talking about was from the Solo line, but it was like the 5 POA line for Solo that they did, which sadly Hasbro got rid of. But that was a Target exclusive, so that's what that is. And then the one on that direction, the one right there, that's actually like a Last Jedi Snoke's throne room playset, which is like 3 different levels. Yeah. And when you close it up, it's actually BB-8, which is kind of cool. Oh, wow. But when you open it, it was this huge playset. They retailed for like $200. It was slightly incomplete, like it was missing a few accessories, which I didn't care about, but I bought somebody off eBay for $60.
Wow.
So yeah. So yeah.
Cool.
So it's a big mix.
Very cool. And the last of my questions I wanted to, of my notes I wanted to ask about, and you had mentioned it briefly, Legos, and I saw there was an X-Wing Lego in there.
Yeah, so I have the Poe's X-Wing. That's Poe's X-Wing from the Rise of Skywalker. And then yeah, that's on the top of my Lego shelf.
Interesting. Okay, so now it gives me a chance to kind of segue back into my normal questions. Out of all the things that I've seen that we've seen in there, other than maybe a couple of vehicles, ships in particular, that were held in an acrylic box, I didn't see anything that was graded.
Yeah, I don't have anything graded at all, to be honest. I mean, it's just not something I'm super interested in having. Yeah, and with that though, like buying like a high-end old thing, I feel like it's important just because there's just so many repros and knockoffs and things like that. Like if you're gonna buy a vinyl cape Jawa, it's really hard to authenticate something like that. So when you buy it graded, you know for a fact that it's real. But with that, you're gonna be paying a lot higher price. But yeah, I don't have anything graded at all. It's
Well,
just not.
our host here, Jack, also has another YouTube series called JAK in the Box.
Yeah, I follow him.
He's one of those guys that back when he was a kid was able to buy something and had the resistance to not open it up and actually put it in a box out in the garage. And his series now not only is him taking that stuff out of the box, but he's also himself becoming a big fan of graded figures.
Yeah, and it's so cool, and that's unbelievable that you are doing that, Jack. Like it's the amount of people that actually have older stuff that they have from their childhoods in the box. That has to be so minimum. So it's just so cool that you have all that. But yeah, I love watching your channel.
I appreciate that. No, my family and I, we moved from Florida back to the California area in around 1986. And I had the full collection and everything going at that point. And so we kind of put it all in boxes. And after we moved to California, I never really took it out of the boxes. So they've been in a little storage area in our garages. I kind of take up one little corner, and they've kind of moved from one house to the other house. And now that I have some time and willing to look at them again, we're opening these up. Since 1987, a lot of these haven't been opened. So it's pretty cool.
So cool.
Wanted to take a moment and give JAK in the Box, his series, a little plug. He had indicated something the other night in a text message to me, and I did ask him about it, but he hasn't responded to the question yet. And that is part of his JAK in the Box series is interviewing actors from the original movie series. I believe there's the metal bearer that he interviewed. There's the stormtrooper that banged his head on the bulkhead as it came through there. He's actually got, and I think he hinted the other day in a text message, a couple of new interviews coming. And I was just curious if he would answer my question as to who is he going to be interviewing coming up here soon.
Well, interestingly, I'm glad you asked that, because it's after this, I actually have another Zoom with these two gentlemen. One, again, is Laurie Good, who's the gentleman that claims that it was he that bumped his head, the stormtrooper that bumped his head. And I've watched a documentary now that I have new questions about it. So he's been willing to come back on. I'm going to ask him some of these new questions, hard-hitting questions about how legitimate he's being about this. But the other guy who he's bringing on is a guy named Mark Kirby, who he played one of the rebel soldiers at the beginning of A New Hope. He was, with the blaster when the stormtroopers came in and was shooting at them. And there's also one of the dead troopers as Darth Vader comes in and kind of like looks over things over. And he says that he can verify Laurie's story, that he is the one that bumped his head. So that's going to be the interview tonight.
So cool.
Very interesting. I look forward to seeing that one. So as we move forward with the various questions, with all the items that you're collecting, and the question is, and you don't have to answer it yet, but what is the importance of the items collected? For me, it was just to acquire all of those. It became even beyond memorabilia. It was just to have all of that stuff. Some people collect very specific items, or maybe just a narrow range. Your reason for collecting these items?
Yeah, I would say it's just getting away from life and just enjoying something simple that just takes me away from stress. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it, and combining that with something that I've gotten a lot out of for life.
Hi there, I'm Jim Stein. I'd like to share with you some of my Star Wars collectibles. And here's a variation on episodes 7, 8, and 9 in the Jack's Pacific Big Figs characters, which features Poe Dameron in his X-Wing fighter outfit, Rey in a slightly different version of her costume. That would be Finn in his Stormtrooper outfit, and of course the iconic Stormtrooper with the bloody red handprint across the mask. These figures, which stand 18 inches tall, depict the characters in different scenes within the various movies, of which here's the iconic red bloody handprint across the helmet, Finn in his Stormtrooper outfit, Rey in a slightly different variation of her costume, and of course there's Poe Dameron in his Starfighter outfit. Thanks for taking a few moments to take a look at what I have in my Star Wars collection, and make it a point to come on back for future episodes. In the meantime, may the Force be with you. Blast him!
What color is Mace Windu's lightsaber? Purple.
Did you get the correct answer? Either way, we hope you enjoyed testing your knowledge of all things Star Wars and had fun along the way.
This is Jack in the Box. We finally get our box back from CAS.
Me? Poetry?
We don't just spread fun through action figures, we get close and personal with the actors that played these characters.
I'm Nick Joseph, and I played Major Awestruck.
You were the one that banged his head in that doorway?
Yes, that's me, yes.
And then they dressed me as a Hoth rebel.
Be sure to subscribe and binge watch all of our episodes. Thanks for tuning in to Jack in the Box. And Joe, we've talked a lot about you have both, boxed figures. Obviously, you have a lot of loose figures. What is that decision making when you get an action figure, when you purchase something, if you're going to open it or keep it in the box? Why that decision?
Yes, that's a great question. So really just presentation, what it looks like, and also to space. But like for the 3 3/4, the vintage collection, all my opened ones are duplicates. Like I never bought a vintage collection figure that I literally just opened. A lot of all my other 3 3/4 figures from over the decades, they're all pretty much opened except a few Power of the Force 2 ones. But that's really just because it just takes up so much space having stuff in the boxes. And if you have a larger collection, any collection, the inevitable space, you're going to run out eventually. So you keep finding ways to wedge stuff in, and suddenly you open some things, and the first time it's stressful when you're opening it, you're like, and then you do it, and then you're just like, that's not that bad. And then all of a sudden you have like boxes everywhere. So it's like, but yeah, I just love the way the vintage collection figures looked in the box. I just think that's just such an iconic look with the black card back. They're streamlined, they're uniformed, and all the different colors. And then with the Funko Pops, I opened those again just because the boxes just take up so much room. In the Black Series too, the boxes take up so much space. Mm-hmm. And they have like a mural on the side that people use to like display the Black Series figures, but that's cool. But to me, it's like a bookshelf and you can't even see the figure. So to everybody that does that, I respect you. It's great, do your thing. But like for me personally, like I want to see the figure. So I just have them all displayed, and I just open those. So it really comes down to just personal preference, but space is always a big issue. So you got to take that into account too.
And speaking of space, your display space, it seems to have consumed the entire basement of your home. All of the walls, this giant room. Do you have ability to expand beyond that, or are you kind of contained?
It will be the basement. I can try to expand within the basement of how I do things. So it's always kind of ongoing, but it will not leave this. I've slowly snuck some sabers up the stairwell, so I have some space to do a little bit of that, but it's never going to leave down here.
Yeah, space is a real issue. This entire room is all Star Wars, and I've said this a number of times. I bought some stuff from a friend of mine a while back and brought it home, and I stood in the room trying to think where I was going to put it, and I ended up literally setting it on top of something else. And that, I just said, is wrong. You're buying stuff that you don't have any room to properly display it. And the funny thing was, I was able to stop buying Star Wars. Again, stopped buying Star Wars.
Yeah.
I didn't stop buying. I just stopped buying Star Wars. Next thing you know, my office became the next area to expand to. And it went from Beatles to Batman to Superman to Austin Powers, the Brady Bunch, the Monkeys. And then it went to G.I. Joe.
Yep.
All of a sudden, this cabinet I built filled with G.I. Joe stuff. And then something happened in that G.I. Joe realm that turned me off. And that focus or spotlight changed once again. And it became Hot Wheels. And the whole point of this little long story is all the Hot Wheels, because I don't have space, are all loose. Nothing's in a package. And I keep thinking, okay, you've got stuff literally stacked on the cabinet in front of the TV. Where are you going to put this stuff? And I actually ordered a case, holds 144 Hot Wheels. I have yet to figure out where I'm going to put it.
Yeah.
But I keep thinking of, okay, you're limited. How about something that stands up in the middle of the room? But that's out in the living room, and now it's going to block the TV. So I think what's going to happen is the original Star Wars collection out next to the aquarium is going to end up somehow coming back in here. I'll kind of consolidate or squish stuff together, free space up out there. So for me, the collecting thing, of which I guess I've always been a little bit of a collector for things here and there, but nowhere near as obsessive as I am now. My collecting experience maybe spans 2 or 3 years. Yours, since about 1989, when you were 5 years old, you've been collecting since then, yes?
Roughly, yeah. And sadly, some things I lost, like they got sold and things when I was at college. And so I'm kind of rebuying some things I used to have. But the short answer, yeah, I've been collecting I tell people it's been a 30-year project. So.
Yeah. So now that we're on the aspect of your display areas, tell us a little bit about how you display it. I mean, I can see behind you there's stuff on the wall, so I'm going to assume that that's pinned somehow. I see there's a lot of stuff that's on shelves. I don't see anything that appears to be suspended.
Yeah, so I haven't suspended anything.
The ceiling is a spot to put more stuff.
I know. The thought has crossed the mind, but I just haven't gone there yet. I considered it with some of the Legos, but I'm not sure if I will or not. And the figures, the walled ones, they're actually the little mini command hooks that I'm using for those. They work great, so they are a little bit better. Sometimes they do remove the paint, which they claim they never do, but for the most part they don't, and you're at least not putting holes in the wall. Sometimes though, just a disclaimer for people, they will leave a little bit of a mark where the plastic is. So if like absolutely positively mint condition is what you have to have, the command hooks may not be your best option. But I don't really care about something like that. So, but they're all command hooks, and what I did find with them, they're very easy to manipulate. Like they're all very, very precisely put together, like all those figures, and I'm able to space them. And it's easy to very like be very even with how you put them up with the command hooks. So you basically put the hook through the hole that's punched, and you actually hang it by pressing that in instead of just like pushing like a pin in there. So I found them, they're very user friendly and they're cheap. You can buy like a pack of like 60 for like $8 or something like that. So they're all the command hooks, and the shelves are all just bookshelves, things like that. One of the most common questions I get is, how do you dust? The shortest unfiltered answer is you don't. But but I guess if I move something, I'll kind of scrape some stuff off. But for the most part,
I
it
haven't
just sits.
dusted anything in here yet, so don't feel alone.
Yeah, and my wife has pretty bad asthma and allergies, and she's never had an issue. So I feel like if she survives it, everybody can. So it doesn't seem that bad.
So in
But,
regards to your
yeah.
various displays, like to your right there is that beautiful cabinet. To your left is that shelf on the lower end. Are these something that you bought? Are they something you built? Or what are they constructed of? Where did they come from?
So they're all bought. I do try very hard to like uniform everything as best I can. I just feel like it's a classy look, and so like these. Let me get off the center stage here real quick. Yeah. So that's actually two different bookshelves, just side by side, but two different ones of the same shelf. And then all those are obviously just multiple ones of the same shelf. Even scrolling around, like some of the shelves back there, they're all the same. So I kind of indefinitely buy the same shelves over and over. And I tend to go with espresso brown, which with the LED lighting and stuff, you can't really tell the difference between the espresso brown and black. So in a way, it kind of doubles your options of what you can buy for like shelving and colors and stuff. So a lot of our poster frames, stuff like that, those are all black, but you can't really tell the difference with those just dark shades. So, and that's definitely something I would really preach to a lot of collectors looking to display stuff, is like, we spend all this money and time and effort buying the pieces, but a lot of times there's just random shelves and things like that. And in a way, like the shelves and those types of things they're just as crucial to your collection as the collection itself, because it allows it to be displayed well. I mean, it's not like the sexiest answer to come back and be like, yeah, I just bought a bookshelf and 5 acrylic risers, from like your haul, but it's something that is actually going to make your collection look incredible in doing that. So I would really recommend actually consider that part of your collecting. So if your monthly budget is say $100, maybe buy some figures one month, but the next month buy some acrylic risers or some stands or something that's also going to enhance your collection, because once you do that, it looks so much nicer and you're never going to look back. So that's definitely something that I take pride in with mine, is I spend a lot of time collecting and like working on the things around the collection to make the collection look good. Because I mean, with toys, I mean, you can make them look very good or very bad when they're all kind of thrown together. So something important to me was to try to, I mean, it's still toys and stuff, but I wanted to try to make it look kind of classier and clean and just uniform. So yeah, just taking time for the work around the work,
Right.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned a moment ago LED lighting, which brings me to my next question, of which I want to in advance compliment you on your lighting, because you've really done a very good job on the lighting. And I have a follow-up compliment to make to that, but let me go forward and ask you the question in regards to the lighting. What kind of lighting is it? Is it there to enhance the item? Does it provide some effects or colors?
Yeah, so thank you first and foremost. And that's something that you just get better at as you do it. Like you get better at how to hide the cords and clipping them behind stuff. And it's just, again, you keep refining it. But they're called Hit Lights is the brand. Get them off Amazon, and you can buy those like real long LED strip lights, which they're a much cheaper option. But the downside of that is there's no gaps. The lights are solid, and you can cut them and like solder them or something, but that's way beyond.
To the LED ribbons that you unroll?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So like separating those and reattaching them, that's way beyond my skill set. I cannot do something like that. So the Hit Lights, they're basically 12 inches. They're 12-inch strips, individual strips. and they still have the sticky on the back, so you can stick them like those shelves. There's basically one in the front row, one in let me get off the center stage again. But there's one in the front row, one in the back row. And they're 12 inches. And then the beauty of that is then the cords, you don't just see lights in between the spaces that you want lit up like you do with those real long strips. So the cords, they actually have attachments where you can buy longer cords, different attachments. They have little sticky things that you can stick them to the shelves to try to hide them and clamp them together. So it's just a really clean look. But they're on Amazon. They're probably about $25 for a box, and you get about 4 lights. Okay. You get 4 lights per box, and you can buy a bunch of different accessories with them, like the attachments and stuff and the cords. So I use those, and that's the entire thing is uniformed with those. And something else to consider with the LED lights, different brands, the shades might be different. So like the whites might not be the exact white on different brands. So you have to be careful.
I had an issue with an Amazon vendor with regards to that. It's referred to as Kelvin, warm white or cool white, and they're not always consistent in what they provide.
Yep. And it's the same with holiday lights too. Like it'll say that, and then you get it and you plug it in. It's like, that doesn't match those, and those are that. So you really have to stick with one brand to really uniform them. But yeah, it's all the hit lights, and I've just kind of gotten better at how I use them over time. Like at first, when I first got them, I just threw them up and I was like, oh, that looks awesome. And then the more and more you look at it, you're just like, well, I can refine it and find ways to hide these cords and wires and stuff. And you always are messing with it.
Now, there is one lighting effect that I did see. And again, this is your second compliment that I thought was really cool. What are you doing to illuminate that ceiling?
So it originally started with, you know, those like old school glow in the dark stars that you can have? Yeah. So I was sitting in here one night and I was just like, dude, it's like a Star Wars room. It would be cool to have like a bunch of stars on the ceiling or something. So I started looking those up and it's like, okay, they still make those. And then I somehow stumbled upon projector lights. So there's all these different projector lights that actually can project a like ceiling, like a sky effect or a star effect on the ceiling.
Yep, that's so cool. That's so cool.
You need
everyone who's going to watch this video is going to go out and buy those now.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Highly recommend it. There's so many different brands of them. The one I can't think of off the top of my head, the one I have, but there's so many different ones. I think it's like Bliss Lights is the brand I have, I think. But basically, if you just look up projector light on Amazon, you'll find a ton of them, and they'll shine stars. Like this one has different settings, so you can have different colors. You can have like a cloud effect. I don't know if you can actually see it, but mine actually moves. Like you can see how it's like rotating around.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, so you can have that, and you can turn that off. But Star Wars room, I mean, you got to have like a Star Wars sky.
Your display, your items on display, how are they arranged? Is it by age, by episode, by character, by scene, or what fits where?
It's mostly random. Like a lot of like those little 3 3/4, like the dioramas and displays, those are scene specific, but some of them even aren't. Like say like I have like the Emperor's throne room, like I have a Death Star scene where basically Luke is like facing down the whole Empire. But even with that, I have some Inquisitors in there. I have Reva in there, which, as we know, she wasn't there at the time. But again, it's like it works. It's all dark side and Luke, so I'll do stuff like that. But they're still kind of scene specific, but not necessarily movie accurate. Like my Attack of the Clones Geonosis battle, I have Ahsoka in there with Anakin. And I couldn't tell you how many comments I got. Like, well, I gotta say, Ahsoka wasn't actually there. I'm like, yeah, I know. I saw the movie. I want her in there. She's cool. It's kind of because that Geonosis battle kind of signifies the start of the Clone Wars. So it's kind of like it's a Attack of the Clones / Clone Wars display. So those things are kind of specific, but I still kind of run with it. But a lot of my other stuff is just random. Like all my Black Series figures are just random how I have them displayed, kind of, but at the same time there is some logic behind it. Like I viewed like how I get this question a lot about because I have a little YouTube channel where I just walk around with my phone and just shoot the collection and talk about it, and hopefully it kind of gives people some ideas of how to display stuff. But the question I get a lot is like, I've never seen figures just displayed like that on a shelf with no rhyme or reason. It's all just random. And the logic was, I like all eras of Star Wars, so I like to integrate it all together. And when I'm looking at the shelves, I like to see a lot of balance. Like the easiest example is, say if I had a shelf that was all troopers, it looks great, but from the eye, it all blends together so much. Whereas like you view it as one unit versus it being all different stuff, you kind of are forced to view every single individual figure to be looking for different people and things. So I kind of like that it like forces people to view them individually versus one cohesive thing. Or say like if it was movie specific, somebody doesn't really like a movie or an era, like, oh, that's that shelf, great, let me pass by. And so it kind of gets rid of that. So I try to mix up the colors. I try to mix up like humans or aliens or droids or troopers. So like all my Black Series shelf is just very, very random, but that's kind of the logic behind it. And the same with my Funko Pops, like they're kind of displayed like that. Like it's everything. And I just like a balanced look where it forces you to kind of look at everything versus just passing by 20 or 30 things if you like it or not.
And of course, my next question is, is the displays expandable? But as you're already pointing out, not only is it slowly creeping up the stairwell, but you're able to condense and bring a number of other items together and, as you say, mix them up to kind of create more space. So aside from maybe building something in the center of the room, that's how you would expand.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. And then just kind of always having ideas. But when, like I said, I'm getting the HasLab Ghost, so it's gonna have to be. I'm gonna get another.
Ship. That's that ship.
Yeah,
yes,
it's beautiful, and the fact that it got every tier and stuff, it's great. I'm really excited for it, and so the plan with that is basically I'm gonna get another one of those shelves, and then it's gonna basically go right there where the bar is against the wall and where the bar stools are, and you can see there's some figures on the side. So I measured it's going to fit in there. So with that though, I'm gonna have to move those vintage collection figures at the bottom, and then I'm gonna move the bar out a little so it's not against the wall, and then that's gonna clear the space for that. But then with the space that clears, that's gonna allow me to put those vintage collection figures on the wall behind the bar where that would be. So that's kind of playing with that, but that's kind of how you're always thinking. You're always trying to like be one step ahead of what you're actually doing in a way. And again, eventually that's going to self-destruct, but like you're just always trying to like be thinking of different ways you can display things and do things.
And by bringing the bar out into the middle of the room, that kind of takes care of what I had said earlier about building something in the middle room. So now you move the bar out there where now there's room for everybody to kind of be around the bar, but it opens up space.
Exactly.
Or collectibles.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always there's always a room for an addition. And then also considered putting carded figures on the bar itself. And then I can actually have some of the strip lights on like below the bar, lighten that up, which can look pretty slick. So that's something that could down the road could happen. But like, yeah, not yet. But yeah, it's always expandable. But
And Joe, when you're buying these new action figures, eventually there's going to be some Ahsoka action figures coming out. There's going to be more vintage collection action figures coming out. What are your sources? Where are you buying these action figures?
So it's a mix, but like I get a lot of not mint stuff from Entertainment Earth. They'll shave off a little bit of the price. And there's actually a smaller shop called Skyward Fun Supply. I think they're based in New York, but they'll do the same thing where they'll knock a couple bucks off if like the package is dinged. And not mint, that could be like completely crushed to like just a hair fracture in the corner that you don't even see. But basically to somebody collecting only mint, that matters to them. So they'll shave off a couple bucks. So I found myself saving a lot of money just like looking at that like every day. It's like part of my morning routine. I'll get up and I'll look for non-mint stuff on their search thing. Okay, nothing today. Great, fine. I'll go shower and do whatever. But I do a lot of stuff like that, and just waiting for sales I look for a lot. And I know there's a concept, there's a thought process of if you wait for stuff to go on sale, you can negatively affect the line, which to an extent I agree with, but to an extent I don't. I don't see Hasbro ever getting away from Star Wars. I mean, they might change how they do it, but there's always going to be enough collectors, and how marked up stuff is for retail, I would almost guarantee on sale they're still profiting off that stuff. So I don't think that's as big of a deal as a lot of people make it to be, but that's a lot of what I do. And I mean, everybody's got to save money in some fashion, so I try my best to do that.
Up today. Hasbro stock was actually up today.
Yep, exactly.
I own 1 share of Hasbro stock.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to support you.
You are the collector. Your wife is kind of getting into it, but you are the collector.
Yeah, 100%. I am. Like my wife, like I said, she watched Star Wars the first time with me, and she enjoyed it. And the more she's kind of gotten to know it, the more she's kind of seen how intricate and crazy it really is, and how broad it really is. So I am the collector, but she kind of appreciates it. And it's interesting because like that's with The Force Awakens being one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite Star Wars movies. The fact that's one of the reasons why it's one of my favorites is the fact that like that was the first movie in theaters that I was able to see with her. And we had that experience, and we went out to dinner, and it was right before every theater ever had like assigned seating. So we still kind of had like the wait in line, which I kind of miss. I miss that because it just felt so cool when you're hanging out, you're talking to random people, and there's so much like anticipation of what's about to happen. And we got our seats, and I just remember that experience so vividly. And there's one point, like a dad with a Chewbacca mask showed up with like his 2 little kids in his arm, and everybody just started clapping because you knew what was happening there. And it was just so beautiful seeing all that. And when she left, she put up a Facebook post saying like, before Joe, I had never seen Star Wars, and I gotta say I love my experience at the new movie. I saw parents enjoying it with their kids for the first time, and I'd never seen such a mix of people just getting together enjoying something, and it was just so special. And yeah, so I'm pretty much the collector, but she appreciates it now. She's watching Ahsoka with me. She's really enjoying it, and it's just interesting hearing her talk about like the characters as real people, as like we all kind of do now. So deep down, you're just like, you're becoming one of us. But like, it's cool kind of getting her opinion too of stuff, and just what she thinks about Ahsoka and how she responds to situations. Like, she loves the fact that she's just so zen and chill all the time. And I think that's such a cool part of her evolution, because as a kid, she was rambunctious and crazy. And that's just something I've seen as just being so beautiful with her character development. Like, you've seen her as this wacky kid trained by Anakin, and then you kind of saw her mature through the Clone Wars, and now she's almost like a mother figure, giving out like motherly vibes. And I just think that evolution of her is so cool. But it's just it's cool hearing my wife talk about stuff like that.
How do you say that? Because the thing I know, so she's just too cool. I mean, too calm. Never seems. It's like, come on, girl, get excited about something. But that's my opinion of Ahsoka. But coming back to what I'm going to consider the honesty question here, would you consider yourself as a collector obsessive, compulsive, budgeted, under control, or out of control?
So I would say compulsive and budgeted. I would say, like, I try my best. Like I said, I try my best to look for sales and try to see if there's stuff I could save on. But at the same time, so with that, you have to be compulsive, because if there's something for a great deal, you got to snag it, or somebody else is. But at the same time, I do try to stay on a budget per month. And most of the times I do well with it. Sometimes I'm a little bit over, but I just feel like you pretty much have to have some type of budget if you're in it for the long game, because it's never going to disappear. Yeah, you got all the time in the world. And even like I talk about, like I like to play a lot of old video games. Through the pandemic, actually, that shot up, like that hobby. So there were games you can get for like $10 that are now like $70 or $80. And you're just like, it's ridiculous. So basically just home in on something you want and just kind of just be watching it, like borderline stalking the thing for a while, but just save the pages as your favorites so you can just click on it and it's easy. And then when you finally find one the right price or a lower price that somebody's just trying to get rid of, snag it. But like you don't have to buy everything right then and there. You can wait and just play the long game, be patient, it'll come. And the biggest thing Jedi preaches is patience. So you got to do it in your collecting.
Not a Jedi. I'm out of control.
You need
Jim's
to
a
be more
collecting
stoic,
Sith
like
Lord.
Ahsoka.
Who sees your collection?
So it's mostly me, to be honest. I mean, it's me and my wife, but every now and then we'll have people over and we'll host, and everybody walks down here is just like, oh my goodness. But and like I said, I do have a YouTube channel too where I kind of walk around and show it off. But like, so I think I have like maybe 470 subscribers or so. So those people hopefully are looking at it. But like, it's mostly for me. It's mostly something I do. I'm always down to show people off. Most recent person that saw it was our gas meter reader, because he had to come do like an inspection. So he came down here.
What'd he say?
So it's always fun. He came down. He was just like, "Oh, this is real nice, man. It looks good." So I was like, "Thanks."
What is the name of your YouTube channel? Give that a plug.
It's Return of the Jedi.
Okay, I think I followed that one as well.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So my name's Joe. So it's Return of the Jedi, but
right.
Joe. Yeah.
If I don't, I definitely will subscribe. But I think I am a subscriber because I saw people subscribe to me, and I was like, oh, let me return the favor here.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. So interestingly, in my picture, I'm actually wearing a Jar Jar Binks knitted hat that my wife actually made.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my YouTube picture. But she got into knitting over the pandemic, and she got like crazy good really fast. And then she was like, well, I want to make you something. And I was like, you make me a Jar Jar hat. And I guess like the thought was, I don't know if either of you guys have ever watched Bob's Burgers, but it's a cartoon. But anyway, one of the little girls wears like a bunny hat all the time. So I was kind of like thinking something like that. And I showed her a picture of Jar Jar, and she's like, oh yeah, him. She's like, yeah, I could do that. And then she made something, and it was so cool. But it has the long ears and it has the eyeballs sticking up. It's like a winter hat.
Right.
So I'll wear it out in the winter time, and everybody's looking at me crazy, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm cool. But yeah.
Jim, did you have one more question, or am I going on to my next one here?
You're going on. You actually have the next two, I think we decided.
Oh, really? Okay. Then I'll ask this first then. Do you have a favorite item? I know that you talked about that picture of your wife with yourself and Chewie. How about on the like 3 3/4 inch scale? Any favorite item, favorite character from that series?
Yeah, so my favorite item of that is probably the one that holds like the most heartfelt feeling is probably the Power of the Force 2 Theater Edition Luke Skywalker. So I don't know if you remember this, but the basically when the special editions came out and they released Return of the Jedi, at movie theaters, they actually had a Power of the Force Luke Jedi Knight figure that they gave out for like the first like 100 or 200 or so that went to theaters. Mm-hmm. So I actually have one of those still boxed, and that's one of my more like special things I would say I have. Financially, it's not like worth a lot per se, but it's something that like at the time it was like such a rare thing, and it just felt like I was so cool actually having one. So I would say that, and then so that's probably up there, and then geez, I don't know what else I would pick. But
I think
maybe
that is a good one. Yeah, that's
yeah.
A good one.
So that or maybe the actually X-Sign autograph was cool.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask is, we've talked to a lot of collectors now, and a lot of people say, obviously, Empire Strikes Back is our favorite movie, their favorite movie. And I think we all get that as Star Wars fans. We understand what a significance Empire Strikes Back played in the entire Star Wars saga. But what I'm curious about is you're a huge fan of Attack of the Clones, and sometimes that one gets looped into the 8th or 9th spot on the series list. Why is that number 2 for you?
So commonly said for that to be in those spots. And interestingly, I would say the same argument you said about Empire with the significance of the saga. Like, if you look at the Star Wars story as a whole, what actually transpired and what was shown of what was starting to happen in Attack the Clones literally changed the entire galaxy. It was some of the most pivotal stuff that we were seeing before our eyes. And I just think that is just so incredible about it. And I think the dialogue also between Anakin and Padme gets a lot of hate, and I think it was perfect. And really just thinking about it, like, he basically was born a slave. He did not have a normal life as a kid. And then he went into this Jedi stuff as a kid. He never had a normal life. He never really developed social skills per se. And she was in politics from 9 years old on. I mean, she was Queen of Naboo at 14. So like she never lived a normal life either. So of course, putting them together, it's going to be very weird and forced. Like, he's not going to be Idris Elba speaking this perfect game to her. You know, it's going to be awkward and weird. I thought they portrayed it exactly how it should have been portrayed. And I just thought, so with the story of it, everything that was happening, I just think it was so crucial to the galaxy. I thought the romance was perfectly played. And then the Battle of Geonosis, like the last 40 minutes of that movie, I think rival any content of Star Wars that we've had. And it starts the Clone Wars. Pretty much everybody agrees that they love the Clone Wars. So that battle signifies the start of it. And also too, Yoda's my favorite character ever. And again, I remember so vividly in the movie theater seeing that scene.
Yeah.
And that was back when midnight showings were still actually midnight. Now it's like 6 p.m. the day before. So, but I think I was a junior in high school maybe when it came out. And I remember I went to the midnight showing with my friend Colin, and CGI was still very new at the time. And seeing Yoda fight with a lightsaber, something you never thought you'd see. And I just remember so vividly that scene of my favorite character when he moves his robe and you see the saber, you're just like, no. And everybody's just, the whole time. We just yelled the entire time that fight happened. And that, I just left. I was just like, oh my God, what just happened? It was so cool. Yeah. So those are kind of my Attack of the Clones arguments. And also Across the Stars, I would argue, is the best Star Wars song ever. In scores, Star Wars, with what John Williams did to it, and I know a lot of the new scoring isn't done by him, but it still kind of carries his legacy. But like, the music in Star Wars matters so much too. And John Williams' scoring is what adds so much to Star Wars. And the Across the Stars song, I just think it's so beautiful, and that's my favorite Star Wars song. So I would say all those factor into Attack the Clones. And so that's my second favorite. And then my third favorite's The Force Awakens. And I already kind of alluded to the fact that it was special to me because it's the first one I got to see with my wife. And large components are basically revitalizing A New Hope. I get all that. But even with that, I thought it was super cool. Like, I thought they did a perfect job of recreating something for a younger generation to get into, which we all loved. And I thought the characters were done so great. Like, it was cool to me. I love Rey too. Like, she's probably top 3 favorite characters of mine. I would say Ahsoka's probably 2 and Rey's 3. 4 is Anakin and Vader. But to me, Rey, it's like, I like her for the reasons my wife now is saying she likes Ahsoka. Like, Rey was just all over the place and frantic and just so flawed. And I feel like I'm very flawed. And I appreciate the fact that there's somebody that's flawed, but at the same time, they're not afraid of who they are, where they came from, and they're not afraid to keep going. And it's just important to just keep going and keep searching. But I thought Rey was perfect in that movie. You saw how she was young and dumb and flawed as hell. Sorry if I could say that or not. And same with Kylo Ren. Like, he was so young. You can see he's still trying to learn how to use the Force. And you see that, like, these are 2 very powerful people, but they're very flawed and still very, very, very childish at how they're coming about using it. And even their fight was just kind of all over the place, like just haymakers left and right, not a lot of skill to it. So I thought they did a great job with that. I thought they did a great job of intrigue with Finn. I really hope they revisit his character and do him more justice over time, because what is cooler than an ex-stormtrooper finding you're force sensitive and becoming Jedi? Like, that is so cool. So I hope they do more with him over time. But then again, the scoring, Force Awakens, I think Kylo's theme is cool. Rey's theme is amazing. But I thought they just did such a great job with it. And the nostalgia parts in the Force Awakens are great too. Like when Han and Chewie run into the Falcon, just everybody's just yay. It's so great. And then when you finally see Luke on the mountain, you're just like, you wanted to see the next episode immediately. And I think that's something that is so cool about a lot of Star Wars movies. And interestingly, I would argue that with Attack of the Clones and The Force Awakens, where you watch one of them, when it ends, you're so pumped to want to start the next one, like immediately. Because Attack of the Clones it's a slow burn, but then when the ending happens, that last 40 minutes is just action-packed and just so great. And when it ends, you're just so psyched. And you want to go right into episode 3. And the same with The Force Awakens. You want to go right into episode 8. But I'll say all those are my favorites, but it's a list that changes 1,000 times. Like, you could ask me this question 5 years ago, I would have said something completely different. So there's not a single Star Wars movie I dislike. I love them all. There's some I like more than others, but like they're all great. They're all entertaining, and like I said earlier, there's some I've taken from all of them.
What I find very interesting is how they all interweave together. You had mentioned a moment ago about exploring Finn's character a little bit more in-depthly. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, but did we not see in Ahsoka the other night a reference to somebody else who was a former stormtrooper? Was it one of the robots? I mean, I could have swore the other night they made reference to, she didn't trust that guy. And was it a robot or something that was a former stormtrooper or Imperial Guard or something? Okay, maybe
I've
not.
only watched it one time, so I might have to rewatch to get exactly what you're talking about.
There was also something, and I'm not to put down Ahsoka, but there was something I saw the other night that what went through my mind was, why is the general, the girl with the rubber horns, bringing her son along on such a daring and challenging mission? And I thought to myself, how irresponsible are you? And the other day, I was scrolling through my Facebook page, whatever, and there was a Star Wars group thing that appeared, and it started talking about that little boy. And one person made a comment that she was glad that they saw him with the blue hair. And I thought to myself, I did notice he had that blue hair the other night. And then they made some other reference, and all of a sudden it occurred to me, this little boy is along in that scene because he's part of some other Star Wars story, and this is his younger or introduction into it. It's kind of like Andor, which is a prequel to something else that goes on. So again, I come back to all of this interweaving is just, once you begin to see where those connections, and to me, one of the most things that just put this huge pride lump in my throat was at the end of Rogue One. You saw the Princess Leia's ship coming up, and they did, I think, a CGI version, and it's kind of like it just made this huge complete circle and came back to, this is what happened prior to us seeing that ship coming over the top of the and I thought, oh my God, it just made this giant connection. And so to me, it's all about the connections. And in particular, and I've been rewatching the Andor series here lately, and maybe that's where I saw that reference to a former stormtrooper or something. But I still think it was in Ahsoka the other night, Ahsoka. the other night where they introduced a character that was a former stormtrooper or something like that.
Well, there was a couple characters when they went to like a shipyard that they were former Imperials, that they're now working at the shipyard. And they say, look, the only way we can get workers is just take people that used to be Imperial shipyard workers and now they're resistance or rebellion.
I remember that scene, and they all turned out to be bad people too.
Exactly. That might have been what it was. Yeah, not necessarily a stormtrooper, but just someone that worked in the Imperial shipyards.
And funny how that paralleled a very similar scene that was in Andor.
That's right.
You know, which also brought forth that doctor guy who ended up getting screwed or killed, whatever you want to call it.
They're definitely setting up that there's some loyalists to the Empire still. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of wrap it up here a little bit. And I'm going to ask this question that we usually end up asking at the very end. And that is, what advice would you pass along to would-be or current collectors?
I mean, the simplest answer is do what you love. I mean, that's what it's all about. But I would add to that, take your time and play the long game. Like you have your, if you really love it, you have your whole life to do this stuff, you know? So
you got to buy it in the next 15 minutes.
Or that. One of the two options. But yeah.
there is one final question I do want to ask. And it's one of the things I made the note on, and it's one of the things that you referred to in the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about your bar, the menu, and then on that menu, I saw food, fun, sabak.
Yeah.
Who is sabak?
So sabak is the card game in Solo, but it's basically the card game that Lando and Han played, where Han essentially won the Falcon. So we actually do have the board game with sabak, which they made. so you can come for the food, stay for the fun, and play some sabak. And then I'll actually grab a menu and read off some of our signature cocktails. So we got a lot going on here, but we basically, and so I'll just kind of show it a little bit, but we do have the
printed up too. Very cool.
I got printed and laminated. I'm trying to turn this off. Yeah. But yeah, so we got our bar name, and then we got some of the drinks. We got the Twilight Night every Tuesday. Then we got the Saturdays with the Max Rebo band.
Wow, very cool.
And then here we got all the drinks with the prices for our all-in credits. We accept Republic credits. So we got Jawa juice for 8 credits, and that's your choice of gin or vodka, a house juice option, and some club soda. And then we have the Mustafar margarita, which is my favorite. I'm mostly a beer guy though, so I do like the Alderaan ale too. 90% of what I drink is an IPA, but I like the Mustafar margarita, which is actually a spicy margarita. So it's silver tequila, triple sec, lime juice, and mashed jalapenos in it, which gives it a nice fiery kick.
Are these drinks that you made up, or are these drinks that you got off some TV show or something?
Yeah, I made them all up. So
okay, very cool.
This is what I sit and do in my free time. And then
and have you tasted those drinks?
Oh yeah.
Too many times I would like to talk. But yeah. So and we have the Alderaan Ale, which is basically our assorted IPA selection. It's only 5 credits. And then we have the spiced Rhodian rum. Rhodian is like the Greedo species. So they apparently have rum, but it's a spiced rum mixed with ginger beer and some lemon and lime garnishing. It's perfect for bounty hunters in the Outer Rim. And then our highest end option, we have the aged Wookiee whiskey, which is actually just our whiskey on the rocks, straight out of Kashyyyk. So those are our house specials. Then you can have any other drink you'd like, but I'd highly recommend the Mustafar margarita.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us. You have a very impressive, awesome collection. I'm envious of a lot of things that I saw there, and it kind of gives me a few ideas. And again, I'm probably going to end up pursuing that ceiling projector.
They're great. I could actually The one I have is an older model, but what I'll do is I'll email you the link of the one I got off Amazon, and I'll send you what I got, and that'll probably also give you some links to other options too. But I'll show you the one I have. But yeah, I hope you add it, especially with your mounted ships. That's gonna look great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, thank you very much. Great collection you've got there, Joe.
Yeah, thank you both. I was thrilled to do this, and I highly appreciate your time. And I love your channel, and props to all the other collectors that I've seen. I mean, all y'all's collections are awesome, and I think it's so cool. So thank you all.
Really nice of you, Joe. Before we break, I just want to remind everyone out there, if you have any questions or comments for Joe, for Jim, myself, go ahead and leave a comment. You know, a lot of informative information, a lot of information that we got a lot from Joe here tonight. So I want to just make sure that everyone, if you do have a question, go to those comments. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to this channel. That's really going to help the algorithm quite a bit. Like us as well. Joe, I always end with, may the force be with you.
Yeah, may the force be with you.
Thank
Hey,
you so
take
much.
it easy, guys.